Lieutenant Rian Mercer had seen dangerous worlds before, but Valora 9 announced its hostility before his boots even touched the landing pad. The air carried a metallic bite, as if the planet exhaled ground-up iron. Dark crimson clouds coiled low across the horizon, stirred by winds that shifted without warning. Everything moved here, leaves, soil, even the light, which made the moments of stillness feel wrong in ways he couldn't describe. He stepped off the shuttle and scanned the base perimeter. Outpost Helios was built like a metal fist driven into the hostile terrain, its walls reinforced with shock plating and thermal anchors. Engineers hurried along walkways, checking weather monitors that flickered with unstable readings. Rian paused at the site, monitors freezing mid-update. Interference again. Lieutenant Mercer, a voice called from behind him. Your liaison has arrived. Rian turned as a tall, lithe figure approached, half the height of a human, yet somehow carrying an older, fiercer presence. Her skin held deep violet undertones, marked by pale bioluminescent veins that glowed faintly with her heartbeat. Her eyes were silver, sharp, and far too observant. She didn't offer her hand. She didn't blink, either. I am Vraxia, she said. I am assigned to keep you alive. Rian gave a polite nod. Appreciate the help. It is not help. Her voice was calm but cutting. It is necessity. Humans are loud. He smiled at the comment, taking it as attitude rather than insult. We manage. Vraxia stepped closer, face unreadable. Lieutenant, if the forest goes silent, you run. If I go silent, you pray. It wasn't the warning itself that caught him, it was her tone. No dramatics, no embellishment. Just a truth carved from experience. Noted, he said lightly. You'll find I'm hard to scare. I am not trying to scare you. Her expression didn't change. I am telling you what keeps people breathing. Before he could reply, Commander Hale strode toward them from the outpost doors, datapad in hand. Mercer, good timing. We've detected another distortion field about a kilometer east. Normal interference patterns aren't matching. Hale shot Vraxia a brief nod. Our scout says it's near a silence boundary. Rian blinked. A what? Local phenomenon, Hale said. We don't have conclusive data yet. Vraxia's jaw tensed. It is not a phenomenon. It is a predator's shadow. Rian opened the mission packet. Sensors show a magnetic anomaly. Nothing else. Exactly, Vraxia replied. Nothing else is the problem. He frowned. Commander, with respect, this seems like simple mineral interference. Hale didn't comment. He only looked tired. Regardless, we need a recon reading. Take your team, assess the field, report back. Vraxia stepped into their path. Do not go in untrained. Rian exhaled, patience thinning. Look, I'm here for engineering surveys, not folklore lessons. Folklore? Her silver eyes sharpened. Our warnings come from bodies buried under this soil. The outpost went quiet around them, not silent, just attentive. Even the wind seemed to pause. Rian broke the tension with a steady voice. Show me the field on the map. Then I'll decide. Hale brought up a projection. The anomaly pulse repeated irregularly, almost like an engine misfire. Rian recognized the signature immediately, magnetic shearing from underground beryllium pockets. Annoying, but not dangerous. Looks routine, he said. We'll check it. Vraxia turned away sharply, muttering something in her own language, a short phrase, stern and final. When she faced him again, her eyes softened only a fraction. If you enter the silence, I cannot follow you. Then stay outside the perimeter, he said, grabbing his gear. I won't push you into danger. She shook her head slowly. You misunderstand. I do not fear it. I cannot follow because it will not let me. Before Rian could ask, she walked toward the gate, leaving him with an uneasy feeling he couldn't name. They entered the forest 20 minutes later, his squad moving in a loose wedge formation. Veilora 9's jungles were a constant rumble of life, buzzing insects, distant predator calls, rustling branches. It sounded chaotic, but the rhythm was consistent in its own savage way. Phraxia padded silently beside him until they reached a ridge. She raised her hand. "This is far enough." Rian lifted a brow. "You're not coming?" "I said I cannot." She tapped the ground lightly with her foot. The earth didn't echo, it absorbed. "Beyond this line, the silence begins." He checked his scanner. "My readings show stable terrain. Your machines speak in half-truths here." Her voice dropped low. "If you hear nothing, it is already too late." Rian waved his team forward. "Let's go. We'll be quick." Phraxia grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. "Rian." It was the first time she used his name. "Whatever happens, do not stop moving." He gently pulled his arm free. "I'll be fine." "You will not," she murmured, "but you may live." Rian offered a thin smile. "I'll take those odds." Then he stepped past the invisible boundary. At first nothing changed. The air felt a little cooler, the lights slightly dimmer, normal for Veilora 9. His team spread out and began mapping the magnetic field. Rian knelt to examine a patch of metallic lichen when he noticed something. The insects had stopped buzzing. He straightened, listening harder. No wind. No leaves shifting. No distant animal calls. Just absence. "Phraxia," he called out reflexively. "You hearing this?" But she wasn't nearby. She had remained at the boundary, exactly where she warned she would stand. Rian turned to signal his squad. They weren't there. "Cole," he said. "Jansen? Morales?" Nothing. His heartbeat quickened. He tapped his comms. "Squad, respond." Dead channel. Not static. Not interference. Just a hollow, unreal nothing. He spun around, scanning every direction. Trees stood motionless. Shadows didn't sway. Even his own breathing felt trapped inside his chest, soundless. His fingers trembled as he opened the scanner. Flat lines. No readings. Not even his own suit. "Phraxia," he shouted again. This time even a shout made no sound. The world swallowed it whole. His lungs tightened as a cold realization slid into him. This wasn't sensor failure. This wasn't windless weather. This wasn't superstition. It was the silence. And he was standing inside it, alone. He reached for his sidearm out of instinct. Then the forest flickered. Not light, reality itself. A shimmer, like heat distortion without warmth, moved between the trees. It glided forward, erasing everything it touched, color, motion, sound. The world dimmed as if it were being folded into another layer, one stripped of life. Rian took one step backward. The shimmer moved faster. Another step. It matched him. His breath finally tore through his chest as a silent scream. He turned and ran. Not because he believed Phraxia now. But because belief no longer mattered. The silence was hunting him. And the only sound left on Veilora 9 was the pounding of his own terrified heart, felt, not heard. The instant Rian crossed back over the unseen boundary, sound slammed into him like a returning tide. Wind hissed through the leaves, distant predators cried out, and the forest snapped back into its violent rhythm. He stumbled, gasping, dizzy from the sudden sensory overload. Phraxia caught his shoulder before he fell. Her grip was firm, almost grounding. "You crossed too deep," she said quietly. "You should not be alive." Rian jerked away, breath ragged. "My team, they were right behind me. They were there 1 second and gone the next. What the hell happened?" "The silence took them," she replied. "That is what it does." Rian grabbed her arm, more forcefully than intended. "Taken how?" "They didn't run. They didn't scream. They just vanished." She didn't flinch. The silence does not chase. It consumes. When it reaches you, you do not feel pain. You do not hear your own death. You simply stop. Rian released her, horrified. That's impossible. Nothing can erase people without leaving a trace. You are thinking like an off-worlder. This place does not care about your logic. Vraxia crouched, brushing her fingers across the soil. You need to breathe, Lieutenant. Your mind is still caught inside the quiet. He forced slow breaths until the shaking eased. But the memory of that soundless void clung to him. Vraxia rose and studied him with a gaze that felt too knowing. You stayed longer than any outsider I have seen. That is why it hunts you now. Hunts me? Rian rubbed his temples. Why me specifically? You resisted it. Her bioluminescent veins brightened slightly. The silence is a territorial apex. It does not tolerate defiance. Rian swallowed. Sweat chilled across his neck despite the humid air. Commander Hale needs to know. If that field expands. It will, she said. Tonight. He stared at her. How can you be sure? Vraxia pointed toward the canopy. Listen. He did. Beneath the usual forest noise was a faint pattern, subtle, rhythmic, almost like breathing filtered through stone. Rian had never noticed it before. That pulse marks its advance, she said. When the rhythm weakens, the boundary grows. Rian pressed a hand to his forehead. I can't take this to command without data. I need proof. Something measurable. You want numbers while your people are being unmade? She asked, voice sharpening. You saw the forest fall silent. You felt the void. And still you cling to sensors that do not understand this world? Rian exhaled sharply. My team might still be alive. If I'm going to get them back, I need more than instinct. Her jaw flexed, annoyance simmering under control. Instinct kept my people alive for centuries. But humans need reasons. Very well. I will show you Deathworld logic. They walked deeper into the forest, away from the silence boundary. Rian expected Vraxia to lecture him, but she moved with silent purpose, touching certain trees, kicking at patches of soil, sniffing the air. Each action seemed deliberate. Finally, she stopped at a clear stretch of ground. Watch, she said. She shifted her stance, lowering her center of gravity. Every muscle relaxed yet remained primed. She pressed one foot into the soil, softly, almost tenderly, and the earth vibrated faintly beneath them. Rian frowned. What am I looking at? You are learning how this world speaks. She pointed at the ground between them. Step here. He obeyed. The earth thrummed differently beneath his boot, heavier, dissonant, like two mismatched chords trying to merge. Those vibrations, she asked. I feel them, he said. That is how the silence moves. It changes the ground before it changes the air. She placed her hand over his boot, guiding the pressure. You can sense its approach if you stop walking like an off-world soldier. Rian tried shifting his weight again. This time the vibrations aligned, a clean resonance rising underneath. A strange realization hit him, this world wasn't chaotic. It was patterned. You hear it, Vraxia said quietly. Good. He blinked. This is how you predict its path. This, and more. She gestured for him to follow. They spent nearly an hour learning the natural rhythm of the terrain. Vraxia showed him how plants twitched long before predators arrived, how the air pressure dipped when the silence drifted near, how the forest's noise wasn't random but a living signal system. Rian listened, learned, adjusted. Every step grew quieter. His breathing slowed to match her pace. He felt the shift of roots beneath the soil, the subtle hum of magnetic buildup in the air, the faint tremor when something large moved kilometers away. He didn't realize how much he'd adapted until Vraxia stopped walking and regarded him with a small, surprised nod. You learn quickly. We don't survive by being stubborn, he said. Just slow to admit we're wrong. A flicker of amusement crossed her face. Then perhaps your people will last longer than the last colony. Rian froze. Last colony? She turned away. It is not a story you are ready for. Vraxia, he said softly. My team is out there. I need everything you know. She hesitated, then sighed. The silence does not always kill immediately. Sometimes it holds its prey in stasis-like pockets, between existence and dissolution. If your people stand at the edge of that threshold, they may have ours. Hope sparked painfully in Rian's chest. Then we can still get them. We can try, she corrected. He took a breath, grounding himself. Tell me how to track it. She pointed at a cluster of tall, reed-like plants. Their tips trembled with a subtle oscillation. These sing when the silence expands. Not with sound, through movement. Watch them. Rian crouched, observing. The reeds shivered in uneven bursts. They're reacting to something. To its hunger. Vraxia knelt beside him. The pattern is wrong. The frequency is climbing. Rian checked his wrist device. The magnetic field was fluctuating erratically, far sharper than before. This looks like an exponential spike. Yes. Her voice dropped. It means the silence is moving faster than it should. Something is drawing it closer. Rian froze. Me. Vraxia didn't deny it. The realization landed hard. His survival inside the silence hadn't been luck. It had been provocation. It wants what escaped, she said softly. It will come for you. And anything near you. He rose slowly. Then we move now. We find its center. We locate my team before it reaches the outpost. Vraxia looked at him for a long moment, studying the resolve in his face. Her silver eyes softened, not pity, but respect. I will guide you, she said. But understand this, you are not hunting the silence. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. It is hunting you. A cold shiver traveled down Rian's spine. Before he could speak, the forest pulse shifted again, lower, heavier, closer. Vraxia turned toward the darkness between the trees. It has found your trail. Rian tightened his grip on his weapon. Then let's make sure it doesn't end it. She nodded once. Stay close. Do not breathe louder than the wind. As they moved back into the forest's shifting shadows, the rhythmic pulse beneath their feet beat like a warning drum. The silence was no longer waiting. It was approaching. The deeper Rian and Vraxia moved into the forest, the more the world shifted around them. Shadows elongated in unnatural angles, and the thick undergrowth thinned as if something had pressed through it moments before. The pulse beneath the soil, once distant, now rose and fell like a slow, enormous heartbeat. Rian whispered, that rhythm, it's getting closer. Vraxia didn't slow. It is watching us. Through what? He asked. There's nothing to see. That, she said, is why it sees everything. They moved in silence for several minutes, following a narrow ridge that curved toward the deeper forest. As they descended, the air thickened. Rian felt pressure building around him, dense, invisible, oppressive. It reminded him of standing too close to an airlock hatch just before decompression. Vraxia lifted a hand, signaling a halt. She pointed toward a clearing ahead. A faint shimmer floated at its center, soft, wavering, and wrong. Like a curtain of heat without warmth. Every instinct Rian had screamed to turn back, but he forced himself to step beside her. That's its core, he whispered. One of them, she said. The silence feeds by forming layers. The closer you get, the thinner the world becomes. Rian scanned the area carefully. Something caught his eye, a half-buried boot, barely visible under a patch of moss. He knelt, brushing dirt aside. It was Jansen's. He froze. They're close. Vraxia crouched beside him. Follow the distortion. The shimmer quivered, pulling slightly left. Rian moved toward it and felt the shift instantly, his breath muted, the ground softened, and the forest noise dimmed. Vraxia gripped his arm. Slow. If you enter too quickly, you won't feel the boundary until it closes over you. Rian steadied his breathing and eased forward with the steps she had drilled into him. Each placement matched the faint tremor beneath them. His movements synchronized with the planet's subtle cadence. The world blurred. Colors dulled. Then he saw them. His squad. Cole, Morales, Jansen, suspended mid-step inside a transparent distortion, their bodies frozen as if trapped between frames of time. They weren't dead, their chests rose faintly, breaths shallow but present. Rian's throat tightened. They're alive. For now, Vraxia said. The silence keeps prey in stasis until it is ready to finish them. Rian moved closer. A spark of static crawled along his arm as he reached for Jansen's shoulder. His fingers met resistance, like pressing against thick gel. Vraxia stepped beside him. You cannot pull them out by force. You must collapse the boundary. And how do we do that? Rian asked. By disrupting its balance. She pointed at the ground. Feel the vibrations. They are unstable. You caused that. Rian's confusion flickered into realization. It chased me. It overextended. Yes, she said. You can break it the same way. He opened his pack and pulled out the portable seismic driver, a compact mining tool designed to shake loose stubborn mineral pockets. He'd modified it after training with Vraxia, adjusting the frequency output to mimic the forest's natural rhythm. Vraxia's eyes widened slightly. You believe that will work? It has one weakness, he said. Movement it can't absorb. He planted the driver in the soil near the edge of the distortion. Before he activated it, Vraxia's hand touched his. Once it starts, the silence will strike. Then we move fast, Rian answered. He pressed the activation stud. The earth convulsed with a deep, rolling vibration. It wasn't loud, but the ground resonated violently, as if the heart of Valora 9 was pounding against something it despised. The shimmer rippled. The distortion fractured. And the silence appeared. It didn't have a shape, only absence. A sweeping void that erased motion, color, and air around it. Wherever it moved, reality thinned. Trees compressed into silhouettes, sound evaporated, and the ground dimmed as though drained of substance. Vraxia grabbed Rian's arm. It's coming. The void lunged toward them soundlessly, shifting like a tide of black glass. Rian yanked the frequency modulator on the driver, pushing it past safe output. The ground quaked hard enough to nearly knock him off his feet. The void recoiled, its edges fraying. But it quickly surged forward, pressing against the vibration like a predator testing a barrier. Vraxia shouted, "It's adapting." Rian planted his boots, shoulders locked. Then I push harder. He increased the amplitude to its highest limit. The driver screamed internally, its metal frame shuddering under the strain. Crackling static danced along the soil. The distortion containing his team began to unravel, slowly, painfully. The silence writhed, folding in on itself. Its edges shimmered violently, glitching like corrupted film. But still it pressed. Still it hunted. A cold wave slammed into Rian, numbing his chest and burning the air from his lungs. He staggered. Vraxia yanked him back. Stay focused. I am, he sucked in a breath. Trying. The distortion around his team broke into fragments, glass-like shards of light collapsing into the soil. Jansen collapsed to the ground, gasping. Morales followed seconds later, coughing violently. Cole remained suspended. Come on, Rian muttered, adjusting the frequency again. Just a little more. The silence surged forward in fury, sweeping across the clearing. Rian felt the world flatten again, sound dying, color draining. He didn't think. He dove for the driver, grabbed its base, and slammed his fist into the manual override. The device roared with a burst of seismic force that rippled outward in a shock wave of pure vibration. The void convulsed. It shattered. The forest snapped back into existence. Sound exploded around them, wind, branches cracking, Morales coughing. Cole dropped to the ground with a choked gasp. Vraxia steadied Rian as he fell to one knee, drained. "You broke it," she whispered. "You actually broke it." Rian breathed hard, chest tight. "Not killed?" "No," she said. "The silence does not die. It fragments." "But you forced it back." Cole groaned. "Lieutenant?" What happened?" Rian forced a smile. "Long story. I'll explain once we're home." Vraxia helped him stand. Her voice softened. "You listen when it mattered. That is why you all leave this place alive." Rian met her silver eyes, gratitude tightening his throat. "Couldn't have done it without you." She tilted her head slightly, Valorian acknowledgement, subtle but sincere. "Then perhaps your people are not as loud as I thought." He laughed once, breathless. "Don't get used to it." They began the long walk back to Outpost Helios. The forest around them hummed with its normal, chaotic life. Birds screeched overhead. Insects buzzed. Predators growled from distant shadows. The noise had never sounded so comforting. As they reached the ridge, Rian paused. "Vraxia, your first warning. About silence." She looked back. "Yes? I won't laugh at it again." Her expression softened with a rare, faint smile. "Good. Because the forest remembers those who do." Together, they headed into the noise. Alive. The walk back to Outpost Helios should have felt like relief. Rian had his team alive, the silence beaten back, and the jungle's noise restored. Yet an unease clung to him, thin but persistent, like a whisper he couldn't quite catch. Every shift of branches, every distant predator call, every rustle triggered an echo of the silence pressing against his lungs. Vraxia kept her pace steady beside him. She didn't look tired, though her skin's bioluminescent veins pulsed a faint warning color, pale green fading toward blue. Rian had learned enough to know that meant strain. "You need rest," he said quietly. "I will rest when it is safe." "It is safe," he insisted. Vraxia gave him a small, almost sympathetic glance. "You still think the silence was the only threat?" He frowned. "What else is there?" "Your people," she replied. They walked in silence after that, the words lingering heavier than the humid air. The outpost's uneasy welcome. Outpost Helios came into view through the trees, steel walls, defensive floodlights, and guard towers humming with electrical charge. The familiar hum steadied Rian's nerves. Home. Sanity. Structure. But when the gates slid open, the atmosphere wasn't relief. It was tension. Armed personnel rushed forward, helping Morales and Jansen onto stretchers. Medtechs swarmed them with scanners and nutrient sprays. Rian expected Commander Hale to meet him with questions, maybe even relief. Instead, Hale marched straight toward him with narrowed eyes. "Mercer," Hale said, his voice clipped. "Report. Now." Rian kept his tone calm. "The silence trapped my team in a stasis field. It. Save the explanation." Hale gestured toward the medical ward. "I need details inside." Privately. Rian exchanged a quick look with Vraxia. Her expression hardened, as if she already knew something was about to go wrong. Inside the med bay, the door sealed behind them. "Lieutenant," Hale said, "I need you to be honest with me. What did you bring back?" Rian stiffened. "My team." "That's it. Then explain this." Hale swiped a control panel. A holoscreen displayed Rian's squad lying in their beds, each surrounded by faint, fluctuating distortion fields, thin layers of static hovering inches above their skin. Rian stepped closer. "That wasn't present when we pulled them out." Hale tapped the data chart. "Their vitals are unstable. Neural patterns are inconsistent. Something followed them." Vraxia moved beside Rian and stared at the hologram. "Not something," she said. A remnant. Hale turned to her sharply. Define remnant. The silence leaves fragments when it retreats. They cling to anything exposed too long. She pointed at the distortion frames. They are not alive. But they are not harmless. Rian's pulse spiked. Can they spread? If they latch onto another host, Vraxia said, yes. Hale's jaw tightened. That's exactly what I was afraid of. Rian stepped forward. Commander, I can contain it. I've studied the patterns. If we match the forest's vibration. We're not using jungle tricks, Hale snapped. We're humans, not locals hiding under roots. Rian clenched his fists. That local kept your soldiers alive. Vraxia looked at Hale without flinching. You fear what you do not understand. Hale's voice dropped low. What I fear is contamination. Deathworld anomalies don't stay friendly after contact. Rian took a breath, steadying himself. Commander, I know you don't trust her. But this is real. And if we don't act fast, those fragments will wake. Hale hesitated. For the first time, doubt cracked through his hardened exterior. What do you suggest? Vraxia answered first. We extract the remnant. Force it out before it bonds fully. It must be done within the next hour. And how? Hale asked. Rian stepped beside her. With controlled vibrations. The same way we broke the main field. Hale looked between them. And if you fail? Then the remnant grows, Vraxia said flatly. And this outpost becomes part of the quiet. The extraction. The med bay lights dimmed as Rian set the seismic equipment around the beds. Vraxia moved with silent precision, marking the floor with chalk-like powder from a pouch at her waist. What is that? Rian asked. A mineral my people collect. It reveals energy shifts. If the remnant tries to escape, we will see it. Hale hovered near the doorway, arms crossed. Do it quickly. Rian adjusted the seismic driver's settings, calibrating the frequency to match the readings he felt earlier. His fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. His team depended on him. The outpost depended on him. He activated the driver. The floor hummed softly at first. The chalk lines vibrated. The air thinned. The distortion around Jansen flickered like a dying hologram. Then the room darkened. Vraxia hissed sharply. It is resisting. Rian increased the amplitude. Jansen's body convulsed once. Morales groaned. Cole's vitals spiked. The distortion burst outward in a sudden wave, colorless, shapeless, but heavy enough to push Rian back a step. The chalk powder rose into the air in swirling patterns, forming spiraling rings. Vraxia shouted, Rian, there! A cluster of distortion peeled off Cole's chest and shot toward the vents like a streak of smoke. Without thinking, Rian seized the driver and swung it toward the cluster, triggering a manual pulse. A violent tremor shook the med bay. The remnant scattered into static fragments, dissolving into the floor. Silence fell. Not the silence. Just silence. Jansen gasped, loud, desperate, alive. Morales tore off his oxygen mask, coughing. Cole exhaled so sharply it sounded like a sob. The distortion fields vanished. Rian slumped against the wall, breath shaking. Vraxia touched his shoulder lightly. You kept them whole. Hale exhaled slowly, as if realizing he'd been holding his breath the entire time. All right, he muttered. All right. I was wrong. Rian looked at him, exhausted but steady. We need new protocols. And we need to work with Vraxia's people. Hale nodded reluctantly. Agreed. Whatever this silence is, we're not facing it alone. A new understanding. The outpost steadied over the following hours. Medtechs monitored the squad as they regained consciousness. Engineers repaired damaged sensors. Researchers reviewed the chalk patterns Vraxia left behind. For the first time, human science and Deathworld instinct worked side by side. Rian stepped outside for air. The jungle roared with its usual chaotic noise, but beneath it, he recognized a new layer. A deeper pattern. Subtle, pulsing, alive. Vraxia appeared beside him. "You hear it now?" "I do," he admitted. "It will never leave you. Once the silence notices you, you learn to notice everything else." Rian smiled faintly. "Guess that's the lesson." "No," she said. "The lesson is that noise can save you." He chuckled under his breath. "I'll keep shouting, then." She gave a rare, almost warm smile. "Good." The forest listens. They stood together in the drifting light, the jungle's rhythm echoing around them, loud, unpredictable, and alive. For now, the silence had retreated. But echoes always return.